It is the Anfield Wrap after Liverpool beat Norwich by 3-1, and after Manchester City dropped points at the Etihad, and with a big week coming, Liverpool face Leeds United in their game in hand, although it will just disappear again next week when Manchester City go to Everton and win 9-0. I am joined by Ian Ryan, Stu Wright and Kev Walsh. Coming up as well, we've got a live show in Brighton the night before the game against Brighton. Craig Hannon just said upstairs, tickets are limited. Tickets are beginning to run out on that one, which is, a great achievement given the fact that he sent the wrong email out on Friday. Also, you can download the Anfield Wrap app, and on there there'll be loads of great League Cup build-up. We've got a really interesting profile of Kaheem Kelleher. We've also got Phil Thompson and Ian Rush lined up as well. So if you download the Anfield Wrap app, you've got Liverpool's past, and in Kelleher, you've got Liverpool's future as well. It will be the absolute business, that show. They went over to Cork to get loads of the stuff for it. We are absolutely buzzing. Liverpool 3, Norwich City 1, and Kev... It's a funny one from the crowd point of view, in that I went in there thinking this will be a walk in the park. If you say Liverpool 3, Norwich City 1, you just sort of think, yeah, it's a game that Liverpool won. There was a moment where the players needed the crowd needed the players. They were 1-0 down, and everyone went absolutely up a load of notches. It'd be great if we could be like that for 90, don't get me wrong, but my God, for a Saturday 3 o'clock against Norwich, it was some atmosphere in the end.
Yeah, unbelievable. I never thought I'd celebrate a goal like the Salah second. You know what I mean? Because to go 2-1 up against Norwich, you just wouldn't think that'd be the case. And it went absolutely nuts in there. And I think it shows the marriage we've got between the players and the fans. As you said it perfectly there, they needed us, and we need them 9 times out of 10 to get us going. And the way it panned out, it certainly did. I think there was probably a few people going, I think we've taken these a little bit lightly when it got to 0-0 at half time. Whereas if we'd have scored any of them half a dozen chances we had first half, it'd have probably just been a total walk in the park, and you wouldn't even be talking about the atmosphere now. But as it was, they go 1-0 up, and then we get the chance to, as Dean Smith even said it, didn't he? That the decibel levels went up, and it was boss to be a part of it. You know what I mean? It's great to have a Saturday 3 o'clock against a team where you'd be thinking in your own head this is going to be just a normal run of the mill game, but it wasn't. It was boss, and great to be a part of. And then the way we did that definitely played a part in the way City Tottenham went.
The Stu, I think one of the things I remember is it goes up, he makes the subs, the atmosphere goes up again, it goes 1-0, and I love Thiago in the centre circle waving his arms, Virgil van Dijk doing the same thing. Do not stop this, we go up right the way up here, and it went up again. And when one of my favourite things about the Salah goal from every angle is the noise in the ground is unreal before the keeper kicks it. Then the keeper kicks it and everyone goes, whoa, hang on, and then it goes up again, and then he scores and it goes up again, and it really did feel like no, we're serious about this league title moment. I thought everyone just had a little look within themselves, and I certainly remember looking in and looking at the abyss and thinking, I can't have this. Not now, not today, not like this. We're not having this. And I thought there was a really strong sense of not today. This does not end now.
Yeah, it was very much a wake-up call, wasn't it? I think we were all, as you said before, we were all striding into that Norwich game thinking it'd just be a bit of a walk in the park, a bit of a rollover, really, and actually, I think it did us the power of good in some respects, actually, because I think it just it narrowed everyone's focus once they took the lead. It sharpened everyone's wit, and you don't get any more of a signal to the crowd from the manager than when he brings on no subs. When when Thiago's striding over to the
but also Divock feels like the manager's going, right, this is what this is now, lads. So he's all
enormous as well, didn't he? By the way, Divock, he's been on the stakes, hasn't he?
he always looks bigger when he comes off the bench. Yeah. When he comes off the bench and you've been watching everyone else, and then Divock comes on, you're like, look at the size of him.
But it was options as well. I mean, I love the fact that they went 4-4-2. I mean, it was a very clear message to Divock. You're going up front, lad, and you've got a partner. You know what I mean? And your partner's everywhere. Your partner's buzzing around, making, no one knows how to track him. No one knows anything about him. In Diaz, you know what I mean? And I want to talk about, can't wait to talk about him later, to be honest, by the way. But yeah, so you couldn't have more of a clear signal to the crowd. And when Thiago comes on, I mean, are we all right to talk about Thiago now?
Do it now.
Oh my God. I mean, it's just like, this is his game, this is his ball, and he's just loaning it to the rest of you for about 10 seconds, and he wants it back, and then he's doing it again, and he's doing it again. And you don't get any more of an example of that than was it with Diaz's goal. When Thiago is literally, he's patrolling the halfway line, and he's just going side to side, short pass, little wall passes back to him one way, then the other, then back again, and then all of a sudden he's dropped his shoulder and he's thrown the whole team. It's laid into Jordan Henderson to fire in what is a gorgeous ball to Diaz, and we're in.
It's with Thiago, Ian, there is a level of football and charisma that is just, it's spectacular, to be honest with you. And again, I think it almost in coming off the bench, and suddenly everything that Liverpool do feels like it's done faster, snappier, with a swagger about it, because he provides that, but he almost shepherded everyone, I thought. You know, that it isn't as simple as Stu describes it there. It is like he loans the ball, and he then goes and finds himself another little pocket where you can then get it back to him if you need to. They have 5 minutes where they try to man mark him, and in the end the poor lad clatters him in the end, and Thiago gets up and goes, I know. That you sort of had to, you know, when he has that sort, he's almost like he's encouraging their players in some sort of sense to be a bit better as well. I felt like he made everyone on the ground, and I mean literally the 60,000 people, be better humans for 25 minutes.
Absolutely. The big thing now is keeping him fit, because when he is fit, he's one hell of an asset. And if you think back to some of the narrative of last season, when people were talking about actually playing Thiago was harming Liverpool, it was slowing us down, it was making us worse, which at the time felt insane and it felt mad, and we talked about it on these shows, but it was a thing. I think the word they're looking for is control. He controls the fucking football match. That's what he does. He sets tempo, he sets tone, and he runs games of football on his terms. I thought he was simply sensational, and the keeping him fit thing is so big now, because you see when he's at his absolute best, there's very few nearly who are at that level in football. And I think, you know, professional footballers anyway strike it differently than mere mortals, but then there's a group of an elite footballer who are at a level where they strike it differently than other pros as well. Gerrard was one, Alonso was another. We've been blessed, by the way, and Thiago is definitely in that category. It was simply brilliant on the back of a really, really good performance against Inter Milan, but again, you know, comes on, he makes things happen, changes the game, and yeah, it was superb from him. And he wasn't the only one either, by the way. I mean, it wasn't a particularly great hour by Liverpool, you have to say that, but I think sometimes, and the lads have alluded to this, how you win football matches matters. Yeah. And it mattered in the context of this season. When that second goal goes in, and even the first to an extent, it was almost a sign that it's on here. People believe that something could happen at the Etihad that night. People believed it. You know, there's a Conte thing where he's lost 3. Is he going to lose 4? It doesn't strike me as a man who take kindly to losing 4 games, I have to be honest. And he felt like he might just get something. Maybe not a win, but get something. And I think that fed into the atmosphere second half. There was a belief. It flowed through the team. It flowed through the fans. And it just felt like something big might happen.
There's a confirmation bias thing, I think, Kev, you've got to be careful about, because you bring Thiago on, and all of a sudden it felt to me in Salah, Mane, Thiago, Henderson, obviously Virgil, obviously the goalkeeper. Liverpool had their winners on the pitch, you know, and I think Thiago sort of obviously massively helped with that. I think one of the things that helped Henderson was everyone just got out of his way. There suddenly wasn't 2 lads right in front of him. There was him and Thiago, and it was as though he looked at Thiago and went, me and you will do this, yeah, that's absolutely fine. But it really felt to me as though Liverpool, and listen, they should beat Norwich 3-1, they should have been ahead at half-time anyway, you pointed out, and it's right to say that, the idea that, you know, it was backs against the wall from Liverpool and then it all flipped, that's not true. But there just seemed to me this thing of this absolute certainty of, no, this is getting sorted out now, because these are the boys who sort these situations out.
Yeah, well, that's why we've all been asking for time immemorial to have the players bought for Liverpool of the right calibre. So that's why you want to buy a Thiago. So people look at Thiago and go, he's 28, 29, paying 20 odd million for him, he'd be on an absolute fortune of a contract. What are we doing that for? We should be buying 22, 23 year olds. And there's a point to that, but then the players you've just named there, the majority of them were bought for big money for the right reasons. You buy big money players and you make big money differences. The goalkeeper sets up a goal yesterday. He didn't have a lot to do, he couldn't do anything with their goal, but he's involved in one of the goals, which is mad. The centre halves are just always fantastic, aren't they? They're so imperious. Like, they get the goal yesterday, and I know on all the shows last week you were asking the Norwich callers, you ain't saying give me a prediction, you were saying what do you think you'll score, and the only way they score is by an absolute fluke, otherwise they got nowhere near our goal in reality. So you buy players like them, and then you make the changes we make, and as I said before, if you go 1-0 up, everyone goes, well, yeah, I'll play against Norwich and do it. But then when it actually needs it, and Norwich go 1-0 up,
and Norwich are lifted, Norwich have got so much at stake.
That's it. Norwich have got so much at stake, but also Norwich in a good run of form. For Norwich, don't get me wrong, they're not winning 5 out of 5, but they're never going to. They're in for them a good run of form. So their backs are up. They start thinking, you know what? We've only got our balls on. Just do another 5 minutes and then another 5 minutes. But then you make them substitutions, and them substitutions change the game. Whether you're playing Bayern Munich in the European Cup or Boreham Wood in the FA Cup, it wouldn't make a difference, because they're the type of footballers that come on and the top 1%, and we've got literally a team full of 1%ers.
He's the conductor of the orchestra. Have you seen the stats flying around over the weekend about Bayern Munich and the amount of goals goals they've conceded since Thiago's left compared to when he was there. It's unbelievable. But you can believe it because as a Liverpool fan, you've seen it when him and Fabinho are playing. Liverpool don't lose. Liverpool don't concede when they're playing. And I think, for me, all of the big games that we've got coming up, which feels like almost every game, by the way, now, we're still in 4 trophies. But I think Liverpool need a controller and him as the conductor on the pitch, most of the time. I think Liverpool need 2 of the 3 out of Henderson, Fabinho and Thiago on the pitch. I think that was part of the problem the other day. I think there wasn't enough control in that first half. Only playing Henderson in that kind of role, and I don't think Keita and Ox they bring their own assets to the team, but I don't think necessarily in that with that midfield around them. I think they need another one of them behind them, and then they're free then to go and do what they need to do and break forward. But I think when Liverpool are going into games with just one of them 3 now, I worry a little bit. The more we can get Thiago on the pitch now until the end of the season, the more chance we've got.
Talking about the big hitters, the lads that matter, Mo Salah I thought he was terrific all game to watch. He must be terrifying to face, Ian. He really must be. He turns every football that he faces, it feels at times, absolutely inside out. It's interesting he does it with a combination of so many things now. It's not just direct pace, it's unbelievable touch, it's great technique, it's vision. He's still got that pace when he needs it. He just picks his moments when he uses it. For me, he's improving still, and that's terrifying because he could already be the best.
Yeah, I think he was probably one of the kind of shining lights, really. So there's a number of occasions where he gets down the right-hand side and he manages to kind of weave his way in, and he has hard lines, to be fair. It almost felt reminiscent of City and Watford when he starts to go past 2 or 3. He doesn't quite get the finish right. But he's just simply brilliant, Neil. And to have 150 goals, what is he? Second behind, I think it's only Hunt, isn't it, who's pipped him to 150 faster. And when you look at the list of players, by the way, I mean, it's a who's who of Liverpool greats. You took a Fowler, people like Ian Rush. It really is just a sensational performance to get to 150 so quickly. And I said on the team talk on Friday, you go back and think about some of the conversations we were having in 2017 about what Mohamed Salah was going to bring to the club. And people weren't even sure whether he'd be starting games because Mane had done so well on the right-hand side, and you're thinking, well, yeah, he's done okay in Italy. The numbers look all right. But you're not thinking for 1 second he's going to come and deliver the numbers he has. He really is in that. I mean, Kev talks about top 1%. I mean, my God, Mohamed Salah really is right up there. He currently is, for me, the best in the world. You wouldn't swap him for anyone. The contract has to get done because there simply is no other alternative or no other outcome than he has to play his football in Anfield for the foreseeable. To not have that happen would be one of the biggest mistakes in the club's history. And his goal, I think the goal's interesting because I don't think he quite connects how he wants to with the finish, the way it goes in. But the way he pulls it down, the calmness. I mean, the easiest thing to do would have been just to get the shot off because Liverpool are chasing. They need the win. They need the fucking win. But he doesn't do that. He exudes calmness. He plays it on his own terms. He sells the goalkeeper and he rolls it in. It's just another brilliant performance on a series of brilliant performances, Neil.
The interesting thing, I think, is coming out of that game, if I was the Norwich's manager, I'd say to the lad who plays left back, he did well. I think he has a really good game, Williams.
Yeah.
I think he sticks to his task really well. He does everything that you'd want your fullback to do, but he gets beaten over and over. And even for the goal, Salah gets the run on him. Then Williams does everything right. He realises his keeper's out. He goes to the line. He does everything he should do, and then he finds himself just even then unable to get anywhere near the ball. All the way through the game, I remember just sort of watching it and thinking he's like genuinely, because he plays for United a little bit, but also just I like to see how fullbacks defend Salah. I'm thinking this lad's doing quite well, and he gets murdered, and that is the problem. That's when he's not just the top 1%, he's the top 0.0001%. That's what he does. Yeah. You play well, he still makes a show of you.
Yeah, you're saying like you played well there, but then he'd have to add on to that. So stop crying now. It's okay. It's finished. You don't have to play him again this season. Well, in fact, he does, doesn't he? In a couple of times. I can see him pulling a hammy for that. Now, the kid done all right. There was one in the first half though where he cut in from the right hand side, and I swear to God, he sent me the wrong way. I'm in the fucking cop. The kid, his legs were. I don't know how he done it. His legs were like tied in an angle that they shouldn't have ever been. I just thought, yeah, lad, you play for Norwich, and honestly, you could do that to literally any player in the entire world. And he'd literally do, as Ian said there, it's not just that performance yesterday, it's every week with him. Like, you get to the point now where it's like, who's man of the match? And you don't really, no one ever wants to say Virgil. because Virgil's always a 10 out of 10 and no one ever wants to say Mo. So you end up giving someone who's like the third or fourth best player on the pitch, man, the match, because it's fucking boring if we get to Salah again, isn't it? And that's the football he's playing. And the fact that he's come back from the AFCON and hasn't won it, it's probably worked out brilliantly for Liverpool, you know, because he's a man on a mission at the moment, isn't he? I know it's only Norwich, but we need them to take a ball out of the sky, an 80-yard ball with a deft touch, and he done it. Then we need them to, as you said, not just slam the shot, take your time, pick your moments. So, and then we said to him, okay, we need to play right wing now. And he went and done that as well. He's absolutely phenomenal, brilliant.
It's watching him, every now and again, he does so much that's incredible, but you got to hear sort of the gasps from the crowd, as Kev saying, times during the first half, at times during the second. It's mad, it's just there. Like, we could walk there. I mean, it's a terrible day for the weather, but we could walk there in less than an hour, the place where he does this sort of stuff. And that is, you know, it's an unbelievable thing to think about, and it's a real reason why everyone needs to sort of stay humble in amongst all of this stew. We've got no idea how lucky we are.
Yeah, there's that danger. I think we're all guilty of taking him for granted at times. He's just he's an unbelievable player. I mean, he's that goal, he makes it. The way he drags their players across and he sends them for the echo, if you like, and he makes it look easy. It's not easy, that. It's like, it reminded me a little bit, but it was further out of Sterling's goal against City in, what was it, 2013-14, wasn't it? And, you know, he just made a fool of them all. And when you do that, there is an element of, you know, it's more their error than his brilliance. Oh my God. Absolutely not a bit of it. The way he brings that out of the sky is unbelievable. The way he's able then to assess the situation. There's about 6 of them around him. It's unbelievable. And how he can do that in a matter of, you know, split seconds, and then to roll it in on his weaker foot, knowing as he does it that the body weight of the two players who are heading towards the line is shifting the other way, so he only needs to roll it in. I mean, it's utter genius. It's the likes that you've never seen before, and, you know, as Ian said before, we need to keep seeing this for as long as possible with this lad. But
what I think is interesting, this is why I say, Stu, I think he's changing his game. I was actually thinking first half a couple of times he doesn't quite run away in the way in which he has done in the past. And then when he needs to run away, when that ball's over the top and going, suddenly it's like he's got afterburners. Williams can't get near him, and Williams, I'd say, he realises, I can't get near this fella, I'm just going to hit the line here, because I can't get near him now, so my best thing to do is to go there. It's strange to me, and I think that there's a bit of the Iron Robin in it, where I think when he needs to be, he's still pretty much as quick as he ever was. What he's not going to do is be that quick for 90 minutes. Yeah. So he's going to pick his moments when he's got to go into absolute overdrive. But to me, that means I think like he's getting better with that weaving, dribbling into the box. It's like he's working out ways to become better and better all the time. But if he needs it, he'll always still have that pace in his back pocket.
And I think that characteristic is massively underrated in him. I think his intelligence, for one, is massively underrated. People look at him and think, oh, he's just a speedster, you know what I mean? He's not. He's got so much more to his game, but the most impressive part of his game is his brain and his determination, as you said there, to self-improve, because he's got within his makeup this unbelievable drive and hunger, which we're seeing, you know. And Kev, you mentioned there about his attitude now coming back from the AFCON, like his determination to win everything, I think is very, very clear. But that is imbued on his very soul about his own self-improvement. I think arguably the other players who are around him in the top 3 or 4 players in the world, I think there's an argument to say that they might have been blessed with more natural talent from birth, if you like. But he's one of these players who had his skill set and then decided to work on every single other of them. Every year he comes back with some level of improvement, some different part of his game which we hadn't seen before. And, you know, for a player of his age to still have that in his locker, to still have that hunger, to still have that humility to think, how are they going to stop me next season if I can learn how to do this? Yeah. You know, that kind of attitude is unbelievable. And that is the type of thing that drives, he's not an average player, but that drives average players to become good players to become great players to become all-time great. And I think that's where we position him.
Look at the assist numbers as well. Well, it's not just goals. So, you know, we talk about an all-round footballer. Yes, he brings goals. He brings more goals than anyone. But he also brings loads of assists as well. So that's another side of his game where it's kicked on a little bit. And he used to get labelled as being greedy. And sometimes you could say, legitimately, he probably could have squared that. But he's a lad who's there to score goals. So more often than not, those lads, they will take the shot. And guess what? More often than not, it goes in the back of the net. So they're entitled to take the shot. He's an absolute genius. And I think one thing as well that changed in 2018 when we have the European Cup final against Madrid, he comes back a difference. His body shape's changed. It's almost like he's saying, no fucker is ever doing that to me again. He came back bigger, stronger. You can't bully him. How do you take him out? You can't bully him.
Some of the tackles he has to endure, and some of the fucking fouls in the box.
And they get away with murder, by the way, with Salah. And because there's this, again, narrative, this label that he goes down easily, people let it go. But you cannot dominate him on a football match physically, regardless of whether he's 5'8", 5'9". He will just give as good as he get. And as I say, we are absolutely blessed to be able to watch this footballer week in, week out. As I said before, he has to be playing this football at Anfield the next 3 or 4 years, no doubt about it.
Mane and Diaz, both on the pitch at the same time, both play a part. Obviously, each scored a goal. Mane through the middle is interesting, Kev, in that there's times when I think it looks great, and then there's other times when I'm a bit, could do with him doing a little bit more of X or Y. I wonder if this is just, he could almost do with getting the opportunity to do it a little bit more, think about it a little bit more, work it out, or whether it doesn't quite suit him.
I feel like I don't want to be Captain Come Down here because we've had a boss weekend. Everything's gone our way. Everton in the shit. Man City lost. It couldn't have been more perfect. But if there's any sort of, I don't know, I just think Manny might have had his time, you know. Sometimes it happens. I think
he's just got an overhead kick at Anfield to make an equaliser.
I know, yeah, but you said it yourself. Sometimes you want a little bit more from him. Listen, don't get me wrong. When you say he's had his time, I don't mean he's dropped levels and levels and levels. What I'm saying is, his period for improvement has certainly stopped. I think he's plateaued, and I'm not sure whether that plateau is going to keep continuing. And if it doesn't, it's only going one way, and it's not positive. And he's got 18 months left on a deal where he probably wants 75% of what we give Mo Salah, and I just can't see it happening. I hope I'm wrong, because I love him, and he goes down as an all-time Liverpool great. He's up there. He's as good as John Barnes, I think, as for Liverpool. The way.
Steady, Kev.
But I think when we look back on his career, right, you'll say, you look at that period from 2018 to 2020, and he was unbelievable, unplayable. And Barnes probably didn't have much longer than that, really, at his peak before he got the injury.
Yeah, Barnes after 4 years, don't he? The first 4 is like unreal.
So I don't say this lightly, but I'm all right. I think if we just do 18 months of thanks very much for everything you've done for us, and here's the games you'll be playing, and coming in to do it, and then we walk away at the end and we all shake hands.
With him, I think it's the big question I think could become with him is whether or not he can play number 9 for this Liverpool team. And I think that's a really hard question, in that I still don't think, in lots of strange ways, like, he's the second highest scorer in the country, and I don't know if Diogo Jota's entirely answered that question yet. The decline of Firmino, a slight decline that you've seen Firmino have, you know, it shows how hard that's been. What Firmino actually does, in the same way Kev talks about that period, what Firmino actually does from, say, 2017 to around sort of 2019 going into 2020 is exceptional in the context of everyone else, Stu. I think it's a really hard question to answer. I think in general the Mane question is a really hard question to answer. That said, he scores an absolute blinder, and was around obviously whilst Liverpool come back into the game. And for me, he's got a massive part to play for the rest of this season. Yeah,
I'm not quite in Kev's.
I don't want to be backing them off
already, like, you know what I mean?
Listen, I don't want anyone to think I love Sadio Mane. I absolutely love him, but I think if you've got to sometimes just have a little bit of an analytical eye on these things, and if you've got that and you take a little bit of the emotion out, I think it's sort of becoming, I think, quite obvious.
I think Liverpool, I think we as fans have had our interpretation of what a centre forward looks like massively skewed over the past 5 years. The job that Firmino has done has redefined the game, and he has facilitated the success of people like Mane and Salah. I do not think for a minute that they would have hit the ground running as quickly as they did if another centre forward had been playing up front for Liverpool at that time. We've seen it when Firmino comes out of the team, when Origi was there in the past, or other players. They've not necessarily had quite the same level of performance usually, or we've struggled to match it until Jota's come along. And I think Jota is a different player. I don't think he is. I think I'll use the term that you said last week, Neil, that you called Firmino the bridge, if you like, the midfield to the front line. And Jota doesn't quite give us that. So there is, I think, a question mark over the centre-forward position, despite the fact that Diogo Jota's the second highest scorer in the country, which is unbelievable. Mane, I do think that he's got all the attributes to be able to play centre-forward. I saw him play centre-forward against Watford, I think it was, at home.
It was, yeah.
A couple of years ago, and 2 or 3 years ago, and he was unbelievable. But the thing is with Mane, I think he's such an emotional player. I'm not sure I've seen many more emotional players for Liverpool than Mane, and I think he can get in his own head. I think you're onto something, Neil, when you said that he almost needs a bit of consistency in the role to get to know whether he can play it and to show us whether he can, because there's a lot to figure out there.
Like I'd start him there against Leeds.
Yeah,
even if Firmino's like, we're not quite sure on fitness at this point whilst we're talking, but I would be eager to start him there against Leeds, just so he's then done it.
The fluidity between the front three as well has all kinds of potential. When you've got a Diaz, Mane and Salah front three, you can do, I mean, at the weekend we saw that. I know we changed formation somewhat, but there was periods where Mane was up front, there was periods where Diaz was up front, and I think inevitably there can be periods where Salah's up front as well. We've seen that in the past. So I think you're presenting the opposition with one hell of a problem if you can get that level of movement. And Klopp's been here at Liverpool now for long enough for us not to keep harking back to his Dortmund days, but the fluidity of his Dortmund team's front line was something special, and I think this has the potential to go and top that by some distance. So I'd love to see. I think the gamble is worth the potential payoff.
Okay.
I know where Kev's coming from, because if you talk about Mohamed Salah and you talk about him potentially getting better, I don't think you could say Mane is going to get potentially better. But you know what? If he has dropped another level, if he has dropped a level or two, that doesn't mean he's no good for us, because that's still a very high level. And I think his goal return, what's it about 9 or 10 this season, which from a wide position, it's still pretty good. You have to say that. I think you're maybe not going to see the old kind of barnstormer performances you've seen maybe 18 months ago, where he'll just go on a run of maybe 7-8 games and he's just brilliant for those games. I think now you are seeing a footballer who maybe you're seeing great games once every 3-4, and it's not quite the same level. But that's why they've gone and put Diaz in. There's a succession plan there, do you know what I mean? And it's the same with Firmino, Kev, for me as well. Firmino is a player who, again, and I know you lads are massive fans, and I am as well, but I think he's been on the decline for a while, Firmino, and I think Stu talked about flexibility. Firmino's probably the one who hasn't got as much of that about his game. Yes, he can maybe drop a little bit deep, and there's talk about could he go into a midfield position. The other lads can probably all play centre forward, and they can play in a wide area as well. I don't think Firmino can do that. So I think if you're talking about players under threat, I think he'd come into that category as well. But again, it's absolutely fine, because there's I know some of them are injured now, but there's 5 forwards there, and there will be games where you do need them. Inter Milan, case in point. So by saying I think this player may have just tailed off a little bit, that doesn't mean they're not going to go and have good games again for this football club. No one's saying that, but I think it is about picking and choosing the opponents and the right time to bring them in and stuff. And listen, it is about succession planning, and Liverpool have probably got to think about that in one or two other areas of the pitch as well. But we'll have to wait and see with Mane, but I don't think it's quite as severe as one or two have made out, where last season he was in a real tricky point, I think, and some of that was maybe lack of fans. And some of the stuff Stu said about getting in his own head, you could see that playing out a little bit. But I think he's come back this season slightly better. Maybe that's harsh, actually, probably a lot better than last season. Not perfect, but a lot better than last season. And I think, as you said, Neil, he's still got a really important part to play this season.
He's definitely got an important part to play, but I think you've got to bear in mind the context of it all. So in fact, the original front three are all out of contract in 18 months' time, aren't they? So there's a thing where we're trying to beat the doors out to get Mo Salah to sign a contract. Well, the fans are. The fans, basically, I think 400 grand a week probably around everyone's thinks it's the expected area, don't they? So Mo Salah gets that, and Neil often says about players getting these big contracts, it's the knock-on effect for someone else's contract, and I just don't see Mo Salah could go anywhere else in the world and get 400 grand a week. I don't see Sadio Mane going anywhere else and get 300 grand a week. And if you're Sadio Mane, and he said he wants to be the best African player in the world, doesn't he? Or was supposed to have said it. I just don't see how he feels the sort of appreciation and the love to take that on to sign a new contract, because he's not going. He'd be lucky to get half of what Mo Salah's getting, really, because Mo Salah's that good. But Mane, I see it all that brings into what you're saying there about he needs to feel loved, and when the fans weren't there, he's loved by the fans, everybody loves him, but if he's getting told, listen, you can have this contract and it's a year shorter than what Salah's on and it's for half of his money, I just think he might say, well, do you know what, I'm happy to, again, 18 months time, walk away on a free.
I think that's a distinct possibility. I wouldn't be surprised if he ends up in France in 18 months. We've all, as you said before, just shook hands, but in that 18 months I think he's going to be, a great part of the squad. And he may well become, more part of the rotation than the automatic first choice now that Diaz has emerged. Can we talk about him in a minute?
Yeah.
Let's see off the leash, Neil.
Stu, what do you think of Diaz?
Honest, do you know, I didn't know that much about him, to be honest. I hadn't seen him much in Portugal. I'd seen the games we'd played against him. And, obviously I'd done the Gutman YouTubes once we were linked. But I'm always a little bit cautious from the Portuguese league. I think it's just one of those leagues where you think, it can be a bit hit and miss. But he's taking me breath away. He's some talent. I mean, both foot. It's the strength of him. What goal was it as well where he closed them down? Was it? He closed the lad down on our left wing and robbed him with the ball, and it was Suarez-esque. It was Suarez-esque, and I'm looking at him going, there's a bit of Suarez and a bit of Neymar in him, and I'm a bit concerned about this because when I look at Jota, I'm like, he's a mix between Suarez and Fowler, and I'm starting to think Liverpool have done a diddle with Suarez's DNA somewhere along the way. They're giving injections. There's one for the Blues. Keep you going all week. But yeah, he's one of those where you think, we've got one here. We've really got one here. We could have a generational talent here. I know I'm getting ahead of myself, but Jesus, this guy looks good. Looks really good, Neil.
I thought it was interesting how they were hitting him. Hit him with long balls, hit him with high balls, hit him with everything. Trust that he'll get it under control. Hit him, just keep hitting him and go from there. He doesn't look like to me, like I think Salah's quite happy being left on the front line. Leave me there, put me wide, bring me into play when you need me. I'll be there, I'll make the run. Feel like Diaz wants to be more involved all the while as well. I can't wait to watch him play again.
Yeah, I think it was Robbo said in the show recently, the settling in period, and he just said, I'm not bothering with that. Fuck that. I'm getting straight in. And he has got straight in, and I think Klopp's very careful with his words when he speaks about players, but already the language he's using around Diaz should get everyone excited. When he talks about he looks like he's been a Liverpool player for a long time, he does. And I think, his 45 against Norwich, the first 45, you could argue, like one or two others, he's not really involved too heavily, but he's always full of effort and endeavour. You could never question it. He's still trying to make an impact on the game, and then second half, he comes more alive as the team do. And I just think it's been a hell of a start. Stu talks about I think it's the cup game you're referring to, when he robs it on the byline. He obviously, he makes an impact immediately. His performance against Leicester was outstanding, to be honest. It was outstanding. It looked like he had been playing for the club for a long, long time. And I think we are again fortunate. Say fortunate. We've obviously gone and done our due diligence, and we've brought in another player who looks like he's going to hit the ground running and really add value. And I think Liverpool have got a lot of firepower now, and there are one or two injuries, but you'd have absolutely no qualms if Diaz is starting the cup final, for instance. You would have absolutely no qualms because he looks like he's ready for it now, and he looks like he could do a little bit centre forward for you as well, because of the things you've just mentioned there, Neil. It's back to that fluidity thing where, if we don't quite know how Liverpool are going to line up, it's really hard for the opposition because they are interchangeable. He does look like he's got a bit of a presence about him. He's up for the fight. I mean, I think it's the Leicester game where he's just throwing himself into challenges, and you're thinking, you don't see that for many wingers or many wide players. And I think, for his previous club, he wasn't quite playing in the 3, was he? He was more of a 4-4-2, so slightly more withdrawn. So you're not quite sure what you're going to get. But when you do see the clips and the goals, he's capable of scoring all kinds of goals as well. So it's not just... It's not just kind of the goals maybe you'd expect where he's kind of coming in late and arriving in the box. He's banging in 25, 30 yarders as well, top corner, right foot, left foot. He looks like he might have the law. It's
the one at the weekend where I've just realised it's not the goal. It's the one where Mane just puts it wide of the post. And the start of that move is Diaz robbing right back over by the touchline, and the whole thing comes from that. It's like a perfect example of counter press. It was one of those where you think Klopp was rubbing his hands together, thinking that is exactly what I want. Everything he does excites me.
The finish is exceptional. I think, the way to pass helps. The big thing about the whole goal is the way to the pass from Henderson is terrific, but you've still got to kick it in the back of the net. It's the hardest thing to do in football. Their keeper does nothing wrong. Comes, does everything right, makes himself about as big as he can. He's not Alisson Becker, but then, he's a normal goalkeeper. He does, he doesn't overcommit or anything like that, but the finish is absolutely inch perfect.
Even the run to get into the positions, fantastic. Just as I think Stu said it before, the ball was getting passed around the midfield in that sort of, we're probing you, but we're not coming for you just yet. And it's the thought of the Aston Villa plays, the Norwich plays is shit. I know what's coming here, and I'm not sure how we stop it. Do we go to the ball there, or do we stay with our man? And then, as you say, the way to pass from Henderson is phenomenal. Just couldn't have been any better for him. But his run in, and the fact that I reckon 90% of the ground knew what he was going to do. The goalie probably knew what he was going to do. But as you say, I'll just stop it. What he meant to do. And Diaz, he's just got in there, boss run, and just that lovely little clipped finish over the
I
goal.
love those finishes. Very Romario-esque.
Honestly, it just makes you... They're like... When you watch football, like everyone loves to see a goal slammed in, but it's when a player does that, you just go, oh, you cheeky bastard. You cheeky bastard. And that's what you love watching. It's like when Thiago... Like played a no-look pass, didn't he?
Yeah. Like, I know, 40-yard switch.
40-yard switch balls. And that's what you did. That's what you cheeky. You don't know the one where he took it on the inside of his heel behind his own leg, and I was just like, wow. And they're the moments you want to watch. Like Diaz is going to give us absolutely loads of them. There's no doubt about that. He's a phenomenal player.
We've got a team of absolute ballers now, you know, by the way. I mean, people go on about the technique at City. You go to that Liverpool team. I mean, the right back's the best playmaker in the world. Yeah. The left back's the best left back in the world. Virgil van Dijk is one of the most accomplished, if not the most, centre half at bringing the ball out and switch and play. Matip's a baller, you know what I mean? He's going to score a Beckenbauer goal at some point. It's coming.
He'll be against Leeds, you know.
It's coming. You know, you got Fabinho and Thiago in field, and you know. And then the front three, I mean, there is no front three now. There's a front five, and it's pick pay 3 from 5, and they're all just absolute ballers, and it's, you know, it feels like such a special time to be a Liverpool fan. And I'm sitting there thinking, you know, you've got to put your trophies on the table. I know that, but it's, you know, it's contextualised by the quality of the league and the quality of your competition and the money that City have and so on and so forth. But I'm struggling to think of a better Liverpool team than this. I really am, and you know, I don't want to offend, you know, some of the older fellas, but actually, I'm struggling really to think of a better, second, more exciting team than this. And it feels like as well that it's not coming towards the end. It feels like it's going for round 2 now.
You know well, that's it. It's like a rebirth, isn't it? Yeah. It's like that's the hardest thing to do in football. If you'd have asked me 6 months ago, I was a little bit concerned that maybe we weren't planning properly. And you'd said it a lot of times that you thought they were looking at a certain age range of players, and you'd often said that we had the younger players and we had the older players. We didn't have anyone in the middle. And Diaz fits perfectly into that mould, doesn't he? And he's come in perfectly for it. And if you look at it now, you can see 2 very easy outs in the centre of the midfield in Keita and Oxlade-Chamberlain in the summer, regardless of what you think of them.
Okay, that's been the review. Huge thanks to Neil and Sean, and we'll see you next time.
Top class 23 to 26-year-old midfielders. Chouameni, I think, is your main man, isn't he?
I'll go. It's a funny one, this one, in that, if you want to talk about that briefly. Like, Chouameni and Bellingham are the 2 I think Liverpool would like, are both actually back in that younger bracket, but they've already got, by the time that we get to this point, they'll have 100 top flight starts behind them, and it's the idea of the lads who are going to go from here, which is already pretty high, to there, and then suddenly do that on Liverpool's watch. And I think Liverpool will want to do 2 in the summer.
Well, if they do 2 midfielders like that, and take... Forget about what you think of both of those players. I think we can all agree that their time at Liverpool, they've run the race for the majority of people. You add 2 top quality midfielders into that. If they are in the younger brackets, or even if they are a little bit older, whatever, you go from, like, maybe where I was 6 months ago thinking, I just don't think we've got this planning right here. I think we've left ourselves too much to do. And in one season, they've shown what they haven't. Diaz makes out the world of difference. Jota has been an absolute flyer since we brought him. And if you can get 2 midfielders in and one of them goes even halfway towards a Thiago type level or a Fabinho type level, but flying. If you get 2 in, that maybe takes 6 months to get to that level. Next season, you're thinking, wow, who's stopping us?
Who's stopping us in general? The strange thing, we spoke about a month and a half ago. It's quite interesting you're back in off the back of the results, because it felt like 2 things. One, City, whilst they were always going to occasionally drop points, it felt like they weren't going to hit anything that could even be approached to as a bad patch. And also it felt like oppositions weren't going to be able to work out how to do anything with them. 1, 2, Liverpool just didn't quite feel serious enough, to be honest. And if it doesn't come off for Liverpool in the league this season, we will look back at Brighton home, Brentford away as 2 just quick examples already that catch me. But right now, Liverpool look deadly serious, Kev. And all of a sudden, City, and it isn't as simple as the results. I thought it was the case around the Arsenal game, and the Arsenal game now looks like an example of City. At the time, everyone went, that's what champions do, and I understand why, because you go through that. But now the Arsenal game looks like actually they weren't playing that well. When I was speaking to Dave Mooney on other shows, he was saying, we're not playing that well, you know, we play better than this. And then the Southampton drop points. What happens against Tottenham? City now look less imperious, and Liverpool look like the most serious football team you've seen in your life.
That's the main thing about it. That's what, when we spoke, as you say, about 6 weeks ago, ago, I said that the league was over, and it was less about what City were going to do, and it was more about the fact that I didn't see Liverpool putting 10 games together where they'd win every game, and they'd made a fool of me, because at that stage we were dropping points. It seemed like, I think we were just, as you said, we just weren't serious. We just didn't have, I don't know whether it was steel, whether it was focus, whatever it was, wasn't there. I don't know what it is that's there now, but it's 100% there. I don't think anyone doubts that it's there now. We are laser focused on winning this league and winning the European Cup and winning everything else. And City, I think what we needed was exactly what's happened. We needed someone shit like Southampton to take points off them, because that's happened before. But then what it does is it gives people the confidence that, okay, Crystal Palace, we were pointing to Crystal Palace, but Crystal Palace was a lifetime ago when they did it. In 2 of the last 5 games, they've dropped points now. And it's the Tottenham one is the more worrying one if I'm a City fan, because to get to 2-2 back after if we'd got beat by Norwich, I think they'd have steamrolled Tottenham. I think there's no pressure on them. They go and batter Tottenham. As it is, they get it back to 2-2 in the 92nd minute or whatever, and still go on to lose the game. Yeah. That's not the sign of champions. That's the sign of a team that are thinking, shit, I'm worried here and I'm feeling the pressure. And do you know what? Guardiola doesn't strike me as the type of fella that deals with that situation well. He's manic, isn't he? He's not. I think Klopp can sometimes be manic, but he's generally quite calm, whereas Guardiola seems to go the other way for me. And if I was a player, I don't think I'd like that.
I think I agree with all of that, because I always thought myself that it was about, could Liverpool go on the run? So I did the post-match pint after Chelsea when they drew 2-2, and I said then, I can't make a case for this club winning the league title. I just can't, because I can't see us putting a run together. And bear in mind, Salah and Mane just about to jet off for a month. Yeah. And we'd had the game against Spurs, where we have hard lines because the decisions don't go our way, the big ones, we draw that game. But then we have the Leicester game in between. And over the tenure of Klopp, I've very rarely been as angry at them as I was that night, because that was a fucking open goal that night. They were on the back of a defeat by City. They had the legs run off them, regardless of whether they'd scored 3 in the second half or not. They were on the knees. Leicester, they were playing midfield as a centre half, and we go and put in an abject performance. I just
thought, a penalty, missed a rebound from a penalty, missed 3 or 4 good opportunities.
There's no way this club aren't winning the league title this season. It's just something isn't quite right. But then 1 or 2 teams have made City look vulnerable again, which I always thought they could do. Arsenal lose the game against City at their place, but for 45, City are run ragged. Arsenal have got the number. Arsenal make some very, very strange decisions second half, and they end up losing the game. Yes, there's a dodgy penalty in there as well. Southampton, who were a good team, take points off them, despite City threatening. And then the Spurs one, with 28% possession, end up winning the game. And you do look at them and think, there's a wobble here. And Liverpool have done what Liverpool had to do, which is take points, stay in games, be brave, dig in. You know, the Burnley performance, the conditions are wild, but it's not a great performance, but they do enough. The Norwich first 45 is, they've made 7 changes, so you can almost expect a little bit of that, but it's not particularly great, but they do enough, and then they turn the kind of levels up a little bit. And now there's the bit between the teeth, and there's a fucking eye of the tiger going on here now, and you can see the surprise. And I think, you know, if you're backing anyone now, it might be Liverpool, because even though there's still that gap, and we've still got to go and do the business against Leeds, which I think they will do, by the way, because Leeds are a fucking mess in every way, but you've still got to go and put them away. I think this Liverpool team now, they really, really fancy themselves.
City will have to earn it, is the big thing now. And I wonder if there's a way in which the City side's conditioned, where I think you've seen in seasons gone past, there's a February, March mini wobble that City can have in all comps. And I sort of wonder if the Guardiola ideal is we blast everyone away. We're 12, 13 points clear. We can relax through our league games and we can focus on Europe. That's the idea. That's the way he's won all of his leagues, to be honest, with the exception of the one in 18-19. And for me, the most important thing to remember is when it is absolute backs to the walls time in 18-19, City produce. And for me, that's the most important. We've got to remember City produce in 18-19. That title race, everyone just won every week. From March onwards, everyone just won every week. It didn't have twists and turns. It wasn't like a classic Wenger, Keegan sort of title race. Everyone just won every week. And that, to me, is the thing to remember about the City side. So they are capable of doing that, Stu, and this manager's capable of seeing them to it, but they're going to have to earn it now. That's the one thing they go into training today knowing.
Yeah, definitely. And I've seen a lot of talk, over the weekend about the comparable run-ins, and Liverpool's is tougher. And you look at it on paper, and I think there's no denying that Liverpool's is tougher. But I think that kind of misses the point a little bit with City. City often drop their points from out of nowhere.
Yeah.
You know, it's. I was going to say Wolves. Then Wolves are a bit better this season. You know what I mean? But it's traditionally it's those kind of.
No, they've got. So I'll give you a good example. So coming up, for instance, you want to have that chat. I think that City could drop points to a well-coached unit that have got ball players who can carry the ball.
Not Everton.
They've got Everton midweek, so they win 9-0. Then they've got Peterborough in the FA Cup. That's separate. Then they've got United, and I would expect them to do the job against United, if I'm honest with you. And then you're looking though. They have the European game against Sporting, which is all done and dusted. Then they've got Palace and Brighton back to back, and I look at that and I go, I feel there's something in that, and and it shouldn't be that they're the ones you look at and go, I think there's something in that. But I look at Palace and Brighton back to back, and I think he won't want Brighton. He will not want to face Brighton.
No, that's absolutely right, and I think as well. I think United will get something. I've got a sense now.
Record United against them.
They have,
recent years.
They have, and I think everyone's focused on this game that we're going to be playing against City at the Etihad in April as the decider. I've just got a funny feeling that City are going to drop more points, and that actually City are. I think this is Liverpool's title. Now, I really sense it in my bones. I think
this energy, lads. I love this energy. I've written we're second favourites. We should be second favourites, but they will have to earn it. This energy is phenomenal.
We're on the march now. The momentum is clearly swung. It is with us, 100%. And I think one of the telling factors has been the Diaz signing, because I think it's just now given a little bit of a sense of overload of our front line. I think City in the past have been able to look, and anyone who wants to disparage Liverpool in the past has been able to say, well, the drop off between who comes next, and they can't say that now. And not only that, when we played, forgive me if I'm wrong here, but when we played City at home earlier on in the season, and we didn't play that great, to be honest, we didn't have Thiago. We didn't have Thiago in that game, and I think we had two or three actually players missing. And if Liverpool can go to the Etihad with what we've got now, which is a near enough full quota of the players, I am very confident. I'm very confident of that midfield. If we go to their place with a midfield of Thiago, Fabinho, and someone else like a Henderson, and then you as we said before, we pay him 3 from 5 from the front lads, and we've got the normal back four and Alisson in goal. I'm struggling to see how City will dictate, even on their own ground, against us with that team. And if Liverpool can stay in this, if Liverpool can not drop any daft points, I think City are going to. And I think City are looking at Liverpool now going, Jesus, they look unstoppable. They look absolutely unstoppable. And I think Sunday, obviously we're all focused on Wednesday against Leeds, but I think if we can get the first trophy on Sunday against Chelsea, that'll say a lot. That'll do wonders for them as well, because Chelsea are no mugs. Yeah. If we can go and do that, then I think that is the springboard then to absolutely attack everything for the rest of the season.
Okay, excellent stuff. Very much into that. By the way, City have stopped carving out great chances. Did a little bit of a stats thing this morning. City's XG per shot is suddenly the lowest it's been in God knows how long. They are not creating good opportunities. That is the thing to watch. They didn't create the Spurs thing is there's the Gundogan goal and there's the penalty, and apart from that, they don't create a single. There's loads of the ball in the area like there was against Southampton. There's loads of moments where when you're watching it with your heart in your mouth, you're going like that. But there's not actually a lad who's getting on the end of things, or someone having a shot from 12 yards out with a clear sighted goal. And I think it's a really interesting thing that maybe sides have done a little bit on that. Leeds then at home got battered by Everton at Goodison Park. They shipped 4 to Manchester United. The thing about them, Kev, though, is you've always got to earn it against them, because the way they play is so high intense, so all over you, all the man-to-man stuff. I think we'll be absolutely fine. In fact, it wouldn't surprise me if we really do earn it against them and they're on the end of a bit of a hiding. But the point is, if you knock off for 1 second, if you stop grafting, they will not stop grafting. If you stop trying to score a goal, they will not stop trying to score a goal. It is a 90-minute match, this. Liverpool can win this 4-0 and it'll still be a 90-minute match, and that's the really mad thing about playing them.
Do you know what, though? I think our players like that.
So do I.
Yeah, I think our players, sometimes, like, they must go into games against the likes of Norwich. I know it didn't turn out that way at the weekend, but 99 times out of 100, those games go pretty much the way. On the Friday before, we could probably all say what the score would be, who the scorers would be, what time. Against Leeds, there's none of that. But, as you say, I think we'll absolutely destroy them, because against United yesterday, I watched it and it was a boss game. A really, really good game. Loads of hatred amongst the fans. Loads of players kicking fuck out of each other. Like a proper game of football. And it was played in terrible conditions. And I just thought, they're doing a lot of running here for not much glory. And then they've got us in the week. And You looked
small
at
squad as well.
An injury hit.
And the thing is, though, like what United done yesterday, I think it must have been on Sky. I was watching it, and he analysed like how United was sort of breaking their press, and basically what it was one of the centre-halves was just walking from his own box to the edge of the United box, and every time he done it, it was sound, because they go man for man. As the centre-half strides out, everyone else is going, well, he's not my man, and the striker's going, well, I'm not fucking chasing him all that way. Give that to Joe Matip, mate, or give that to Virgil van Dijk, and that's like giving it to a centre midfielder, isn't it? So once we can I think if we start doing that to them, we could really hurt them, as you say.
Didn't Thiago and Fabinho go to the game yesterday? Didn't they were at Ellen Road? They were picked.
Really,
yeah. They were on a scouting mission yesterday. They went to watch the game together. In the direct, but unbelievable. So that to me says everything about what Liverpool.
If I was Leeds, I wouldn't let Thiago in. I just said we can't let. Come on. Do you
reckon he was in disguise?
He's got a very ornate moustache, which he should have anyway. Really, I didn't know that.
Yeah. There's pictures all over Twitter today about it, and I think that says everything. Now, either they've taken that upon themselves, which I think I like even more than the idea of the manager sending them. But either way, that says to me that Liverpool are absolutely laser focused on winning every game.
So
now.
He doesn't start Fabinho at the weekend. Doesn't bring him on either. Both fullbacks also get a rest. I think his theory was we can play because the way he expected. And listen, I'll say Norwich. I think Norwich were really well coached against us. I think he's a good manager, and I think that they've given themselves the best chance of staying up. I don't think they will, but they've given themselves the best chance of staying up. And I'm very, 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 very aware of what's going on at the bottom of the table.
very, very,
very aware. Every week, if I was the Guardian or something, I'd get me writing 3,000 words on it. I know what's going on, but there is, Stu, for me, I think you can almost go, I think he's thought, I want my footballers in the final, obviously, I want my best players in the final, but I think I also want my best players against Leeds. And so how do I sort all of that out? And that's why I think you'll see Thiago start, you'll see Fabinho start, you'll see the two fullbacks start. You may not see Matip start. That's the one thing I would say about, is this the Joel Matip game? Because I think you want Matip for Sunday, but I could be wrong about that. And then from there, then it's who's fit up top. It wouldn't surprise me if you don't see Henderson start. By all means, argue at any point with this, but I think he might put someone else in there to have Henderson off the bench and as fresh as possible for the final. Salah will start, and then I think it'll be fitness on the others. Is that how you feel it goes?
I think I'd probably play Thiago, Fabinho and Keita in midfield. The same reason I said before. I think when you've got those two, then I think you can let Keita really go and enjoy his football. I hate to see Keita running back. I don't think he's particularly great at it, and I think we struggle. And I think this is going to be a game for running, by the way, potentially when we lose the ball. But if we've got Thiago and Fabinho on the pitch, we won't lose the ball very much at all. Yeah. So I think, and at the back, I agree with you. I think Matip, it's time for a rest, really. We've got to protect him. I think he's already played more games this season than he's played in the last 2 seasons. I think that's right, or it's there or thereabouts. So I think I'd bring Canate. And there's got to be a point, though, where we look at Joe Gomez, a centre-half, that's got to come soon, but I'm not sure this is the game.
I don't think he's going to give Gomez 90 on Saturday and then play him on a Wednesday.
No,
I think he's going to just be a bit... I think Gomez is next going to play against Norwich, and then they'll arrange some behind closed doors games against Norwich for him as well.
Just playing Norwich every week.
Yeah, I think Canate, and then the front three. It's just come back to that question we had earlier on, but I fully expect him to go strong
and comfortable win.
Yeah, I think it will be Canate, even though Matip's been brilliant.
He might do Canate in the final. The only thing and that could be closer than we think it could be in the final.
Possibly. I mean, he does like Matip for the league game, so maybe. But on the back of a game at the weekend, is it worth just giving Joel? I think you've still got to be careful with Matip. I mean, I know his fitness levels are far better than what they've been, but I'm always thinking, just have Wayane, just because he's so important. And in midfield, I'd do Fabinho, I'd do Thiago, I'll probably do Elliott in midfield. I'd probably give Elliott. I think again, he benefit from the minutes. I think Leeds are just... they're a joy to play against, to be honest. I know they work hard, I know it's all effort and stuff, and I know...
I'm really looking forward to the game because of all of this.
Was Leeds the game where Elliott got injured?
Yeah, it was, yeah.
He loves all that, though, the manager.
Yeah, he does. Yeah.
In terms of not tracking runners, they are unrivaled. Honestly, I've never seen anything like it. They do not track runners. It's. I mean, the amount of times, even second half yesterday, even at 2-2, and United have got 3-on-2. I mean, what's going on there? It just can't. It shouldn't be allowed to happen. But he won't change how he plays. He loves to play like that, and it is great to watch, and it's entertaining. I saw them at Villa in the 3-3. What a game of football yesterday, like Kev said. What a game of football. We're in for an absolute treat on Wednesday, boys. There's no doubt about it. But I think Liverpool, if they're at it, and why wouldn't they be? Because there's a league title at stake now. This game is just huge. It's one of the biggest games in years. It's massive, this. And I was looking forward to the cup final, but this is just on another level now because there is a league title at stake. I think we can do them for 4 or 5, honestly. And I don't usually go like that because you're always worried about a bit of a sucker punch on the nose. And I know Leeds have got that in them a little bit where they can just have a mad game. But they've got so many injuries to big players. Phillips is still out, Bamford's out.
Bamford's the key one.
They haven't got a lot up front at all. And James is buzzing around up there, but he's not a proper centre forward. So I think it all points to a Liverpool victory. And if the mentality's right, Neil, and as I said before, why wouldn't it be? I think we do them big time.
Marvellous stuff. Download the Anfield Wrap app. There is a league title to be won. Quite the argument made on around the table during this podcast for that. Excellent stuff indeed. It's been an absolute pleasure. What a way to have a Monday morning. Stu Wright, Kev Walsh and Ian Ryan. Andy Heaton producing. The Reds are most definitely on the march. This is what on the march feels like.